Hey guys, Trisha Dishing here, and welcome back to my channel. Just a video I've been wanting to do on the Operations Northwoods document that was released and declassified in 1997 on November 18th. And the reason why I'm actually doing that, I'm actually also in the links descriptions below, I'll provide a link to this document. It's a government document, and this is a good document to provide to those naysayers who think you are nothing but a conspiracy theorist, and stating that the United States do foment their own wars. We start wars, and 10 out of 10 times we have not been provoked or been hit like we've been told through all these false flag wars, such as, let's see, I have some up here. 9/11, of course, which was called the New Pearl Harbor, which was very befitting that Bush described it as that, because Pearl Harbor was a false flag too. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, and I'll talk about that in a moment, that actually literally started the Vietnam War, which was actually a hoax. One of our ships in the Gulf of Tonkin was not hit by the North Vietnamese. It was set up to look like it was hit by the North Vietnamese, as I've explained to you before what a false flag is. And it literally sent us into a war that we definitely did not win, and we definitely lost, because over 2 million Vietnamese and over a million Americans and other armies and things like that had died, and some of our vets today are still suffering from Agent Orange and the other horrible side effects of the mental toll that war takes upon you. As our people that are in charge, the true deep state, the elite, laugh at our Americans that were really thinking that they were going into a just war. We have to realize now, guys, that every war that's been started and every war that's going to be started is a false flag. It is to foster and to promote the coming New World Order, a one world totalitarian socialist government under a dictator, which will be the Antichrist. This will happen. The thing of it is that if we can get the truth out, we can awaken people up to it and delay that process, as we know that it's going to happen according to the Bible. But the problem is that the people want to stay in darkness, and they want to stay blind, and they don't want to look at this. They want to call us conspiracy theorists, and they want to call those things, they want to just go back to their sports, their social events, their total involvement in whatever they are doing, their work, and they want to ignore exactly what's actually happening in this false, fallen world that is ran by the prince of the power of the air, which is Satan, for a temporary time. Let me just add that. So let's go on to it. And the reason why I'm going into even Operations Northwoods, the CIA not the CIA, I'm sorry, the government declassified the Operations Northwoods plan in 1997, as we see here. And this is this is their MO, guys. The United States will do horrible things, and they will do it under secrecy. They will tell the American people through the lying mainstream media that is bought and paid for the same and owned by the same people who are promoting the one world government and the New World Order and the taking over the world to bring it under a one world totalitarian socialist system. So that's why that's why they're able to do it effectively, because it's amazing, though, still to this day, that people still listen to the mainstream news. It just blows my mind. But hey, if they want to stay asleep, stay asleep. I was asleep until 4 years ago, but now I'm awakened, and I will not go back to sleep again, in Jesus' name. So anyway, what they'll do is they will declassify these things 20 to 30 years later, because guess what? By that time, Americans can give a rip about what happened, even though millions of people had been killed and slaughtered, innocent people, even though the economy had suffered from it, even though it really literally changed the way of lives of how we're living today. They don't care. They are worried about today. Okay, it's a me generation, guys. That's what the Luciferian doctrine in this coming world religion's all about. It's the worship of self. You are your own God. You could care less about anything else. Okay, you want to keep your eyes closed. You want to listen to the mainstream lying media. You want to listen to a government that lies constantly on both sides of the aisle. Okay, not a Republican, not a Democrat. I used to be a staunch Republican until I woke up myself. Both sides are liars. It's designed that way. It's the Hegelian dialectic, like I say all the time. It's problem. They start a problem. We give them the reaction. Then we're fighting amongst ourselves and we're divided. And they come in and bring the so-called solution, even though that's where they wanted us to go in the first place. They just had to do some mind manipulation and lead us there, deceptively and nefariously. So the reason why I'm even talking about this is what's going on in Iran. The United States is in England and Israel are like jonesing for a war with Iran, of course, which will, kick off the war of Gog and Magog and so forth. And the thing of it is that they are lying. They're telling the media and the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is saying that, they hit a ship. Iran hit a ship and sunk it. And we found out that was a lie. And you need to watch my previous video before this to understand exactly, and the proof that I'm talking about, that it was a false flag. They are trying to get the American people all ratchet up, get them all excited and all light up so they can go in and, go kill millions of more people, innocent people through war. Okay, so Operation Northwoods, what's that about? Well, I'm sure you guys heard of what was happening in Cuba in the 60s after Fidel Castro had overthrown the dictator, the Cuban leader Batista. And basically, Batista was in Russia's pocket. Okay. So as you know, in the 60s, the fake Cold War, but nevertheless, the Cold War between Russia and the United States, the Soviet Union and the United States, was at its, heating points at that time. So of course, Cuba being close to us and, the former dictator Batista being in Russia, the Soviet Union's pocket, it made it very kind of, scary that if Russia could literally come into Cuba and be that close to us to launch, nukes at us. Okay. Now I'll get into the Cold War at another time, but that was the whole thing. So what happened was Fidel Castro came in and overthrew Batista. And so the United States, had found out, basically, of course, that, Cuba was going to be in bed with Russia. So Fidel was going to be in bed with Russia. So, of course, they had to come up with a plan to oust Fidel Castro and basically destroy Cuba and, do another land grab, which is known as an occupation, an illegal occupation. So let's go into it. Operation Northwoods. Oh, and that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to take over Iran. We're trying to finish off the Middle East. We got about everybody over there except for Syria and Iran. Those are the two that are left. Everybody else, we came, we conquered, and we kicked butt, like demonic Hillary Clinton said, bragging about thousands and thousands of people dying. Yeah, that's something to brag about. All for a new world order, which is actually going to be our demise anyway. So Operation Northwoods is a false flag attack. They admitted it in this declassified document, originating with the United States government in 1962. The attacks are military and war tactic used since Roman times. They've been doing it. Guess what? If it works, guys, and it works on the dummies like us who've been asleep, then they're going to keep on doing it. Why change? It called for the CIA and other operatives to commit genuine acts of terrorism in the United States cities on both military and innocent civilian targets. Sound familiar? These acts of terrorism were to be blamed on Cuba in order to create public support for a war against that nation. And that's what you are seeing right now against Iran. They are trying to ratchet up the support of the American people so we can say, go ahead, go to war with Iran, even though they're not doing anything to us, okay? Operations Northwoods included proposals for hijacking and shooting down commercial airplanes. I will show you that in the document. So your friends that sit there and call you a tinfoil wearing hat conspiracy theorist, you can print this off because I'm going to leave it in the links below in the and there's your proof, okay? Or take them on the web and it's on there too. And their own military and U.S. naval ships bombing civilians in American cities, followed by the introduction of phony evidence and other tactics that would implicate the Cuban government. It's the second verse, same as the first thing that the United States and Israel and its allies do, because they want a one world totalitarian system. So anyway, I have right here the declassified document of Operations Northwoods. Now you will see here it's from the Secretary, it's to the Secretary of Defense from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And if you don't understand that, the Joint Chiefs of Staff is the highest military ranking person that coordinates the wars and intelligence and all those different things with the United States, and basically tells them, listen, this is what we can do to go occupy or conquer another nation that we have no business doing. That's what he is. So don't think that he's a good guy or anybody in that top echelon of the military, of the military industrial complex. They are liars. They're Freemasons. They're part of secret societies. They are New World Order zealots, and they are Zionists, period. Now, like I said before, do not think that I'm saying go out there and be mad at a war veteran who truly thought that they were fighting for their country. Actually pray for them and be nice to them and share them this information, because they only went in for what they were told, like we all did. My dad was in Korea and earned 3 Bronze Stars and different things like that. And I'm telling you, if he was alive today and he knew all of what was actually truly happening, he would have been devastated. But nevertheless, these military vets, they deserve our medical support, they deserve emotional support, and they deserve, to be prayed for sure. I'm talking about the top evil ones who are the ones pulling the strings. So I'm not going to read all of this. It's lengthy, but we're going to get into the key points of this, okay, of their plans. And this is basically the Joint Chiefs of Staff telling the Secretary of Defense, these are the options that we can do so we can get justification, guys, right here for U.S. military intervention in Cuba. They wanted Fidel out of there, okay? They wanted to kick him out of there and put their own puppet in, okay? Fidel was not having it. And so you guys can read that part. I'm going to leave it in the links. I want to get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, so here we go. Oh, and look how they do this. This is the main thing, the main objective of what they're doing, and they literally redact it. But you can read it and at your own leisure. It talks about the meeting that they had in March 13th, 1962, about what they were going to do to attack Cuba and and lie to the American people. Okay, so I want to read this part. The Chief Operations of Cuba, the Cuba Project is what it was called, and then it was eventually called the Northwoods Project, has requested that he be furnished the views of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on this matter in 1962. Now, remember, Operation Mongoose, I think I have it up here, is what Kennedy did. And don't think Kennedy was something great either. It's a long story, but listen, he knew all about this too. He tried to bring down Castro. 1968, he authorized and approved Operation Mongoose, which the CIA went in and set up a bunch of schemes to destabilize the Cuban government. Okay, at least 8 attempts were made on Castro's life. Poison pills, exploding cigars, booby traps, seashells. So Operation Mongoose was authorized by Kennedy and the power elite to send in our CIA to literally upset that country. Now, mind you, many people had died and suffered from it, from, whether it's economical or financial or physical. So do not think that that was such a great, he was part of the same group except for a different name. Kennedy was. So they were saying, listen, the Operation Cuba project, we know Mongoose didn't work because Fidel was still in there and it didn't upset the Cuban government. So let's go on down to say the problem they have for, okay, as requested by Chief Operations Cuba Project, the Joint Chiefs of Staff are to indicate brief but precise description of pretext which they consider would provide justification for U.S. military intervention. Okay. The facts on the problem: it is recognized that any action which becomes pretext for U.S. military intervention in Cuba will lead to a political decision, which then would lead to military action. Okay, so they're just stating the problem, the facts, and things like that. The discussion, here we go. The suggested course of action appended to the enclosure A are based on the premise that the United States military intervention will result from a period of heightened U.S.-Cuban tensions, which placed the United States in the position of suffering justifiable grievances, okay? Also, the world opinion, the United Nations, we're going to make sure they understand, too, that because we are going to do these fake false flags attacks, that this was truly done to us, and we're going to deceive them as well. It says, while foregoing the premise can be utilized at the present time, it will continue to hold good only as long as there can be a reasonable certainty that there'll be intervention in Cuba. And it would not directly involve the Soviet Union. That's very important, okay? So they are going to make it look like, okay, we don't want to do too much and make the United States look like we're doing this, because then Russia will come in, the Soviet Union will come in, and it'll be an all-out World War III, okay? So they got to do it precisely, covertly, clandestinely, and so forth. You guys can read this. Okay, so here we go. The conclusions. This is what their suggestion, the recommendations on how we going to justify a war with Cuba. It's recommended. Here we go. Let's go down here. Hold on. Let me get to that. Okay, you guys can read that. It's a bunch of the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to bore you reading it. I'm going to attach it. Okay, this plan. Okay. Okay, so such a plan would enable a logical buildup of incidents to be combined with other seemingly unrelated events to camouflage the ultimate objective and create the necessary impression of Cuban rashness and irresponsibility on a large scale, and directed at other countries as well as the United States. And see, that's what they did with Iran. They made it look like Iran hit a Japanese, ship liner in, I can't remember what that Gulf was, but anyway, in the Middle East. And here, the Japanese owners say, that's weird because we were just, the president president of Japan was just in a meeting with Ahmadinejad, and which is the leader of Iran. Why would Iran literally go attack a Japanese liner? So it's not just the United States will say that we've been attacked or whatever. They'll say, oh, somebody else has been attacked and we have to come to their aid. You understand? So here's what they're talking about. Okay, you guys can read that part. I want to get to the nitty-gritty here. Okay. And of course, this is talking about them getting in with different agencies like the Mossad, CIA, the MI5, which is a England CIA. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay. So let's start with 2. A series of well-coordinated incidents will be planned to take place in and around Guantanamo Bay. And that's so funny because we actually, occupy that right now, to give genuine appearance of being done by hostile Cuban forces. Incidents to establish a credible attack, not in chronological order. They want to start rumors, many rumors, about the Cuban government. They want us, if they can stir the people up about Cuba, then guess what? They look like they haven't touched anything, and the Cuban people will go after Fidel Castro, okay? That way the United States says, hey, we didn't do anything. It's their own people, and we got to go support those people rebelling against such a dictator. I am not sitting there saying Fidel Castro was a good man. Absolutely not. Just telling you of how these false flags are coordinated and started. Number 2, land friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage an attack on a base. And friendly Cubans, guys, are basically CIA agents dressed as Cubans, and no joke. So they would go into that country and start trouble and try to rally up the people, ratchet up the people like they tried to do in Operation Mongoose to go against the government. Start riots near the base, main gate. And the friendly Cubans would do that. Like I said, the friendly Cubans are the ones that are going to be like your crisis actors, except for their CIA agents dressed as Cubans. Number 5, blow up ammunition inside the base, start fires. These are all the things that they want to do. Now, mind you, guys, when you do these things in false flag attacks, some people get hurt and some people don't. But let me tell you something. The majority of people get hurt, killed, or something horrible happened to them. There is no victimless false flags. Trust that. Another suggestion is from your military guys, burn aircraft on the airbase, sabotage it. Lob mortar shells from outside of a base into a base to send some damage to installations. Capture assault teams approaching from the sea or vicinity of Guantanamo Bay. So anybody that would be coming against them, they would capture them. Capture militia groups which storm the base. Sabotage ships in harbor. Doesn't that sound familiar? Large fires, okay? Sink ship near harbor entrance. Isn't that something? Wasn't there ships supposedly sunk just with Iran? Conduct funerals. Did you guys see this? For mock victims. Conduct funerals for mock victims, okay? So just like we had seen in Sandy Hook, where that was a well-crafted false flag of a gun grab that they've been doing with all these mass gun shootings, allegedly. What they do is they will literally hold mass mock funerals for these because they got to make it look real, and they got to definitely make sure that the American people don't, wake up and find out this is all a bunch of false garbage and nefarious doings. United States will respond by executing offensive operations to secure water and power supplies, destroy artillery and mortar emplacements which threaten the base, commence large-scale United States military operations. So when they starting all that trouble over there in Cuba, then we'll come in and we will bring the might of the military in, and while we're at it, we'll take out Fidel Castro and actually take out the whole government so we can occupy it. A Remember the Maine incident could be arranged in several forms. That's the same thing. Remember the Maine was a false flag. Look it up. We could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba. Now, let me tell you something, guys. On this U.S. ship, guess who would be on there? Our military men and women, okay? But United States, the military industrial complex could blow that ship up and blame it on Cuba. That's a classic false flag, okay? Classic. We could blow up a drone. Wow, didn't that just happen too? Didn't Iran just get done saying, or President Bush, or what's his name? Trump, I'm sorry, guys, said that Iran shot down an unmanned drone of ours? Didn't he just say that? And we could arrange to cause such incidents in vicinities of Havana or Santiago as a spectacular result of Cuban attack from air or sea, or both. You guys can read this more and more. The U.S. could follow up with air-sea rescue operations covered by U.S. fighters to evacuate remaining members. So what would happen we would blow up our own, people, our own ships. And then United States would happen to be in that area, probably running a drill as usual. And we would go in and we would start saving people. And it made it look what we're doing. Guys, this is so evil. And this is directly from your government. We could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, Florida cities, even in Washington. Okay? Meaning that they'll send in their terrorists, they're terrorists and rebels like they do in every country that we arm, set up, and we finance. Okay? It's so disgusting. A Cuban-based Castro-supported filibuster could simulate against a neighboring Caribbean nation. Now, mind you, Cuba was having problems with Haiti, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Nicaragua at that time. So what the United States military suggested to do, they would stir something up and blame these guys, okay? So it would get Cuba to respond to them, and they would be in a war, and we would come in on the side of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. I mean, this is what this is all about. Let's see. Use Cuban B-26s. They can paint our military as Cuban B-20, our military aircraft as Cuban B-26s and C-46 type aircraft to make it look like they're doing it, and that they have also burned the sugar cane, which is a very pricey commodity in those areas in Cuba and so forth, and make it look like it was them. This could be coupled with Cuban messages to the communist underground in the Dominican Republic and tell them, listen, Cuba is coming after your sugar canes. They're doing it. And here, all the while, it would be us. They could use MiG type aircraft by U.S. pilots and could provide additional provocation. It goes on. And then, of course, it gets down here. They could hijack. Isn't that something? Hijacking attempts against civil air and service craft should appear to continue as harassing measures condoned by the government of Cuba. 9/11, folks, right here, civil air liners were allegedly hijacked. Well, not allegedly, they weren't hijacked, but we can blame it. And then, of course, blame it on Osama bin Laden. So they would do the same thing here with Cuba. They would hijack their civil air things, hijack ours or whatever, do a fake hijack and blame it on Cuba. You guys can read it. It's the same thing over and over again. It's the same demonic stuff. Takeoff times of a drone aircraft. I mean, it goes on. And what will happen is the drone aircraft, meanwhile, will continue to fly the fouled flight plan. And when over Cuba, the drone will then be transmitted on the international distress frequency saying Mayday. And it just goes on, guys, to set the Cuban government up. The one that's really egregious about all this stuff, you can continue to read, which blew my mind. And we're almost done here, guys, because this is a lot of reading, and I'm going to let you guys read it. Oh, it is possible to create an incident which would demonstrate convincingly that a Cuban aircraft has attacked and shot down a chartered civil airliner en route from the United States to Jamaica, Guatemala, Panama, or Venezuela. The destination would be chosen. The destination would be chosen only to cause the flight plan route to cross Cuba. Okay, guess who the passengers would be that they would set this up with? Unaware, unknowingly. It could be a group of college students off on holiday, or any grouping of persons with common interest to support chartering a non-scheduled flight. Everybody knows that a lot of times that the college students will charter a civil airplane, which is a regular airliner, and they can charter it, and they will fly to different destinations such as these, Panama, Guatemala, Jamaica, Venezuela, and they have to fly over Cuba because that's the flight plan that they would be doing. But in the meanwhile, United States would literally shoot down and kill those college students and those ones doing have planning a vacation and blame it on Cuba. Do you guys understand how evil that is? Yes, your government will kill you in order to do their agenda, to promote the agenda that they are doing. And this is how disgusting this is. Now, you guys can finish reading the rest of it. I'm kind of losing my voice. Cuban MiGs, all this thing. I mean, it goes on. And these are all suggestions by your military, the military industrial complex, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff to the Secretary of Defense. And basically, on this case, they are saying they are going to approve it. Okay? So they just need to know which one they're going to do. Which demon, or hey, guess what? They might do all of it. Guys, we're living in a horrible, evil, deceptive world. And the people who say that call other terrorists are truly the terrorists. And they are, this country, the people in this country, are unaware of what's going on. It's our job to show them exactly what's happening. And, same thing with the Gulf of Tonkin, and it sent us into Vietnam and all these different wars. We need to, first of all, give our lives to the Lord and know that He is our only hope. He's our only truth. And give our lives to Jesus Christ and just ask Him to come into your life, and not just do it by religious, because it's not about religion. In fact, Jesus hates religion. He loves relationship. And ask Him, saying, God, all these evil things are happening all around us, but You told me that I can hide under the cleft of the rock, which is You, and receive help in a time of trouble. Yes, we're going to go through tribulation. Yes, we're going to go through problems and things. But God, I know that no matter what happens to me on this life, that I have a life that's eternal, that's waiting for me, that You prepared for me, because You said if I leave and I go again and I prepare a place for You, I will come again and receive You unto myself. Guys, your only hope is Jesus Christ, because that's our only trust. But in the meantime, let's waken people up to that His truth, the truth of who He is and salvation, and the truth of this evil world, because the Bible talks about it many times, and Jesus says it, be not deceived. Guys, God bless and have a good day.